Part 38. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 371. Hearing Qiu Jian's words, Wang Feng showed a smile, then stretched out his palm, looked at Qiu Jian and said, "Welcome back." Yes, in Wang Feng's eyes, Qiu Jian was originally one of his own, but he has only been away for a while, so he said welcome back, not welcome to join. Qiu Jian looked at Wang Feng, then looked down at Wang Feng's palm stretched out in front of him, stretched out his arm directly, just held Wang Feng's hand, looked into Wang Feng's eyes, nodded gently and said, "That's right. It's a return." Everyone else in the Hope Base looked at Wang Feng and Qiu Jian, who had been looking at each other affectionately, with a strange look. Two big words could be clearly seen in their eyes: "So dirty." I and the general take off their war robes, and spend the spring night warm in the hibiscus tent. But the flying general of Dragon City is here, and the king will not come to court early from now on. Lu Feng shook his head and recited a poem. Although the preface and the follower were inconsistent, everyone compared what they were seeing. The scene seems very appropriate. I'm talking about Lao Lu. Didn't you say that you were always a beggar before the end of the world? Why do I think you know more than college students? Tang Haoshan looked at Lu Feng with a depressed look. I was a beggar before the end of the world, so I have time to read this. Lu Feng glanced at Tang Haoshan with disdain. You didn't go to college, right? I went to a military academy, Tang Haoshan said honestly. TCH. Are military schools and universities the same? Who has been to university? Explain to this guy the main contents of university life, Lu Feng asked loudly to the people behind him. Me. Mars raised his hands hurriedly and said, I am a college student, I know this. The main content of college life is sleeping in class, picking up girls on campus, drinking in the dormitory, and in internet cafes play the game. The ultimate goal is to defeat the janitor of the girls' dormitory. TCH. That's the college life of a loser. As a rich, handsome, and top student, I must correct you, Hao Shui said arrogantly. My college life is to rent a house next to the campus. Picking up girls, drinking, and playing games is all done in your own house. During class, in addition to sleeping, you can also pick up the beautiful teacher. Okay. It seems that poetry is not taught in universities. No wonder they don't know how to do it, Tang Haoshan said with a frustrated look. Nonsense. I have learned it, at least I still remember one sentence. I learned it in college. Li Fei immediately protested, the path has never been swept by travelers, and the gate is now open for you. Look at it and sigh softly, the clam is good, I only pity the grass growing beside the stream. So wet. So wet, Tang Haoshan nodded. You really didn't study in college in vain. You learned a lot. Seeing everyone talking and laughing like this, a hint of warmth suddenly appeared in Qiu Jian's eyes. Maybe this is the life he wants. With a few friends, he can chat, brag, and talk about everything without being defensive or doubtful. He can be completely free. The feeling of trusting the other person is what he has always wanted to pursue. Seeing the scene in front of him, Lin Li was a little stunned. Suddenly, he shouted loudly, "Boss! You have joined, what should I do? You have to take me with you." Huang Hua looked at Lin Li with contempt. You just said you wanted me to hang out with you, and now you change your mind and want to hang out with me. Fart. I want to mess with your boss, not you. You need to be more clear about this. Lin Li pointed at Huang Hua and cursed, then immediately looked at Wang Feng and Qiu Jian pitifully and said, two bosses, you can't ignore me. Otherwise, I will be bullied to death by this despicable villain. Seeing the speed of Lin Li's change of expression, Wang Feng was a little dazed. Fortunately, there were not many normal guys in the Hope Base, so he quickly reacted, Qiu Jian. Who is this? Wang Feng looked at it. Looking at Qiu Jian, he asked. His name is Lin Li. He had a fight with me before, but then we hung out together. He's a pretty good guy. At least I trust him. Qiu Jian looked at Lin Li, then looked back at Wang Feng and said. Madman. I believe in this guy too, Huang Hua also said at this time. He and Lin Li were at odds with each other, but after all, they had grown up together, and they would definitely stand by his side at critical moments. Okay, Wang Feng nodded and came to Lin Li. Lin Li? Since my brother believes in you, then I also believe in you. Now, I want to do something that should be very beneficial to you, so, you better believe me. After saying this, Wang Feng waved his right hand, and the blade of apocalypse appeared. Then, Wang Feng held the blade of apocalypse and slowly slashed towards Lin Li's neck. Lin Li couldn't help but be startled when he saw Wang Feng's movements. Is this a rhythm that wants to kill him? Why do you still say it should be beneficial to you? He looked at Huang Hua, but found that Huang Hua's eyes were full of surprise. Then he looked at Qiu Jian, only to find that Qiu Jian also nodded slowly towards him. What's going on? Lin Li struggled in his heart, but then he chose to trust Huang Hua and Qiu Jian. Huang Hua could be said to be Lin Li's best friend. The two had played together since childhood. It was only after Huang Hua joined the army that the two began to have fewer opportunities to meet each other, but this relationship would never be dimmed because of this. This is why when Wang Feng's apocalypse waved towards him, he first looked at it. Huang Hua went to see Qiu Jian instead. Tian Kai touched Lin Li's neck lightly, cutting his skin. After a drop of blood was stained, it was taken back by Wang Feng. Then, Wang Feng smiled and stretched out his hand to Lin Li, saying, "Welcome to join the Hope Base." What are you doing with my blood? Aren't you going to use it to stab a straw man? Lin Li stretched out his hand and shook hands with Wang Feng, blinking his eyes and asked. You make a straw man. The madman wants you to upgrade, so he wants your blood. Huang Hua laughed and scolded. As one of the core members, although Huang Hua joined later, he also got the awakening potion. Naturally, he knew that the awakening potion needed the user's blood, and Wang Feng's way of taking blood just now was also to test whether Lin Li was worthy of giving him an awakening potion. Because Taishi's had used his ability just now, Wang Feng was not sure whether Taishi's could still use his ability to detect Lin Li's thoughts. Moreover, Wang Feng did not want to use Taishi's ability on his own people, so he just used this method to test Lin Li. If Lin Li asked him to take his blood, he would make him an awakening potion. If he avoided it, it meant that he did not believe in himself, so he would still let him be his evolver. Now time is tight. Wang Feng has no way to waste time to test a newcomer. He has to seize all the time to improve his own and Hope Base's strength and prepare for the alien invasion in a month. Fortunately, Lin Li has passed his test, and now it seems that Lin Li's ability is really suitable for his Hope Base. When Wang Feng saw Lin Li, the first thing he thought of was his suggestion to Doomsday before he left, digging a tunnel. At that time, Doomsday was worried that the tunnel was not safe and needed to be reinforced before it could be used safely. However, with Lin Li, this safety issue should no longer exist. These mutant rats can be used as guards of the tunnel. In this way, the tunnel can be guaranteed to be safe even without reinforcement. Upgrade, Lin Li asked with some doubt. At the same time, he touched the wound on his neck with his hand. What upgrade? Wang Feng looked at Lin Li, who was a little confused, and smiled gently. Then he stretched out his hand and sent an awakening potion to Lin Li, looking at him and said, "Drink this potion, and you will become an awakener like Qiu Jian." This is the upgrade. So good. Hearing the effect of the awakening potion, Lin Li's eyes almost popped out, but given that his eyes are relatively small, it seems difficult for his eyeballs to break through, so there is no need to worry about him. Is this really as awesome as you say? After taking the awakening potion, Lin Li looked at Wang Feng with suspicion. Forget it, Just give it to me. Without waiting for Wang Feng to answer, Huang Hua jumped up and cursed at Lin Li, while reaching out to grab the awakening potion. Get lost. This potion used my blood. What's the matter with giving it to you? Lin Li hugged the awakening potion tightly with a vigilant look, and then wanted to open it and start taking it immediately. Don't open it. Wang Feng saw Lin Li's action and quickly reached out to stop him. After taking the awakening potion, it will transform your physique. This process will last for about 10 days, so you can't use it now. Ah, 10 days. It's okay. I'll let my mouse guard me. Lin Li was stunned, and then said with a nonchalant look. Boy. Do you really think your mouse is awesome? Tang Haoshan walked up and looked at Lin Li and said, then he activated his supernatural power and activated the field of fire. A ball of fire appeared and enveloped Tang Haoshan's body. Looking at the stunned Lin Li, Wang Feng shook his head and said to Lin Li, Brother Lin Li, believe me, it is not difficult for any awakener to kill you if they know your location, unless you hide and use your mutant rat army to grind him to death, but at that time, you will also suffer heavy losses. At least more than half of your mutant rat army will be lost. I give you a suggestion. Now you can go directly to our Hope base and find a guy named Duan Lei. He will arrange an absolutely safe place for you to awaken, and your mutant rat army can also be used there. What do you think? Wang Feng looked at Lin Li and asked gently. I go alone? How can they believe me? Lin Li looked at Wang Feng and asked a little uncertainly. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 372. Just show them this potion, they will believe you. Wang Feng smiled confidently. Duan Lei and the others are very familiar with his potion, and it is impossible not to recognize it. Therefore, this awakening potion is the most suitable. Good evidence. So magical. Lin Li looked at the awakening potion in his hand and asked with some surprise. He didn't doubt that people at the Hope base could know him through this potion, but he doubted whether this small bottle could turn him into an awakened person. Who? No doubt, just take your army of rats to the Hope base right away. Keep walking along here. After getting on the main road, go all the way north and you will reach the Black Dragon Bridge. Follow the guardians guarding the bridge. Tell the soldiers, they will let you pass. Huang Hua patted Lin Li on the shoulder, then just wait for us there. Remember to follow Duan Lei's orders. We will go back in about a month. Wait. Don't leave in a hurry. Wang Feng suddenly remembered something and turned to look at Qiu Jian. Qiu Jian. You said there are 4 camps nearby? How many survivors can there be in total? When Qiu Jian heard Wang Feng's question, he made an estimate in his mind and replied, the total number of the 4 camps is probably less than 30,000 people. So many? Wang Feng frowned. He originally thought that the 4 camps combined would have about 10,000 survivors, but he didn't expect that there were so many. It seems that these 4 camps have it's bigger than Lu Feng's camp back then. Qiu Jian. Do you think they would agree if we let them join the Hope base and transfer them all to us? Wang Feng looked at Qiu Jian and asked. I think there's no problem. They've always wanted me to stay and protect them. I've been hesitant because I don't know whether to go back to Hope base to find you, and I've also told them that I'm going to let the 4 of them. The camps were merged together, but because there was no suitable location to accommodate them all, the status quo has been maintained. Qiu Jian thought for a while and then said. Now that the thick fog is coming, many creatures have mutated. They now know that this place is not as safe as before. They asked me to find a place that is safe and large enough for them to move the 4, put the camps together and build a new camp, but there is no good place nearby and I haven't found it yet. It shouldn't be difficult for them to go to the Hope base now. The leaders of the 4 camps have no ambitions. They just want to survive. If the Hope base has enough food and the safety factor is high, I think they will be willing to go. That's good, Wang Feng nodded, and then said, Qiu Jian. Take me to meet the leaders of the 4 camps. I will talk to them and see how to safely transfer them back to the Hope Base. Lao Lu, you, Lao Meng and Taxus, come with me. The others will stay here and wait for us to come back." After Wang Feng said to the others, he waved to Qiu Jian, entered a hurricane and prepared to go to the 4 camps mentioned by Qiu Jian. Wang Feng and the others are now pressed for time and do not want to waste time, but they cannot ignore the 30,000 survivors here. The second drastic change has just occurred. It is conceivable that in the future, the types and numbers of mutated creatures will definitely continue to increase. If they were left here, and without the protection of Qiu Jian, these 4 camps might not be able to hold on for long. Now Wang Feng plans to first visit the survivors in these 4 camps and ask them if they are willing to take refuge in his Hope Base. If they agree happily, then Wang Feng can lend a helping hand to them and see how to bring all these people back to the Hope Base. Since these 4 camps were all nearby, about 5 hours later, Wang Feng, Qiu Jian and the others ran around the 4 camps. After Wang Feng explained the situation, 3 of the 4 camps one readily agreed to join the Hope Base and was willing to obey Wang Feng's command, while the other camp with about 7,000 to 8,000 survivors was a little hesitant. But now Wang Feng didn't have time to wait for them to make a decision, so he simply let them go and transferred the survivors from the other 3 camps back first. After returning to Zhuangqiao town, Wang Feng divided the people again. One of the 2 hurricanes was given to Tang Haoshan to lead, along with half of the manpower, Qiu Jian and Lin Li, preparing to escort all the more than 20,000 survivors from the 3 camps back to the Hope Base, and then they followed Wang their intended route to chase them. This is the only way Wang Feng can think of that can take care of these survivors without wasting his own time. Moreover, Tang Haoshan and the others do not necessarily need to send people back to Black Dragon City all the time. When they meet their own after the follow-up troops, these survivors can be handed over to those people for protection, and they can turn back and continue chasing Wang Feng and the others. After allocating the personnel, Wang Feng took Lu Feng, the Martian trio, Su Mo and Zhang Xiu to continue their killing journey. The others, under the leadership of Tang Haoshan, would kill the 3 survivors who are willing to join the camp of Hope Base will be escorted back to Hope Base, or they will be handed over to their follow-up troops. There are only 10 of them in total. Even if Qiu Jian is added, there are only 11 awakened ones. But fortunately, Lin Li, the Rat King, is here, and his army of rats should still be able to play some role in this situation. So this escort mission is not that difficult. After splitting up, Wang Feng and his party continued to move towards the next target location. According to the map, they had to wipe out 5 more villages and towns occupied by zombies and mutant beasts before they could encounter the survivors' camp again. At that time, Tang Haoshan and the others must have returned to the team, and Wang Feng also asked Tang Haoshan to tell Duan Lei to send another guardian army, led by at least 10 awakened people, to catch up with them and meet any survivors in the future. If they join, they will be responsible for protecting these survivors during the transfer. Tang Haoshan took Qiu Jian and others to arrange for the survivors to gather in the 3 camps and began to prepare for transfer. These camps had almost no fuel, so there were not many vehicles that could be used. Basically, they could only rely on foot. This is the reason why Wang Feng split his combat team into 2. If they need to escort them back every time they find a survivor, they will not be able to walk many places in this month. The enemy in 1 month's time will be the biggest crisis. Wang Feng must try his best to improve his strength in this month. At least, he must get enough apocalypse points. According to what the old man said, those aliens it will take 40 days for the creatures to arrive. They will return to the Hope Base in a month. There are still 10 days for the guardian warriors to awaken. It can be said that the time is just right. As for the improvement of his strength, Wang Feng has no clue now. Although after becoming an awakener and integrating the life core, Wang Feng's strength has greatly increased, but how will he upgrade in the next stage? Now Wang Feng still has I don't know, but now every time he absorbs the life energy of the zombies and converts it into apocalypse points, Wang Feng can feel that part of the life energy will be separated and integrated into his body, constantly strengthening his body. Maybe when this accumulation reaches a certain level, Wang Feng will naturally advance to the next stage. After driving the Hurricane and leaving Zhuangqiao town, Wang Feng looked at the next place on the route, which was about more than an hour away. He couldn't help but shook his head helplessly, but now he had no choice but to rush there. The only way the consolation is that everyone in the car can use this time to restore their physical strength. The Hurricane kept moving forward on the road, but the Mars trio in the car felt a little awkward, because Su Mo and Zhang Xiu were also in the car. The two of them were tired of being together all the time, and the three bachelors watching the Mars trio. My eyes were hot and I felt quite uncomfortable at the same time. You two. After looking at the two people nibbling together for a while, Mars finally couldn't help it anymore. You two. Does Nian know there are other people in the car? I know. If we weren't afraid of giving you an advantage, would we be so conservative? Zhang Xiu took a moment to speak in his busy schedule, glanced at Mars and said dissatisfiedly. Holy crap! Is this still conservative? Hao Shui wailed. Do you know that it's immoral for us singles to be so generous with your dog food? How about, you just pretend we're not here? Li Fei's eyes lit up, as if he thought of something worth looking forward to. Okay. Then you get off the car, or go to the roof of the car and stay there. Zhang Xiu said something grandly. Wang Feng pretended not to hear Zhang Xiu's provocation. Now he suddenly regretted it. It seemed that he should not have brought this girl Zhang Xiu out. When he and Su Mo just started getting along, Zhang Xiu was a little more restrained, but he didn't pass. He regained his bold personality in a few days, and made Su Mo, who was originally very honest, less polite. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 373. Fortunately, it only lasted an hour, and Wang Feng was always moving at the fastest speed, so they arrived at the next destination very quickly. To be honest, Wang Feng was quite looking forward to this place because it was here. What is displayed on the map is a relatively large gray dot, which means that there should be a lot of zombies here. Now Wang Feng hopes to encounter a large zombie wave. If it weren't for the need to clear a safe route for the following teams, Wang Feng even wants to go directly to some large cities, such as Zhuqing City. The city, after all, is where the harvest is the greatest. But now Wang Feng and the others not only want to kill more zombies, but also collect supplies and survivors along the way. Therefore, Wang Feng must try his best to clean up the route he has taken so that the following troops can collect supplies without any trouble. After driving the Hurricane into this town, Wang Feng felt a little strange, because he didn't find any signs of biological existence in his sight. Isn't this supposed to be the case? This place is shown as a gray dot on the map, which means there should be a large number of zombies here. Could it be that someone has taken the lead and killed all the zombies here? Wang Feng carefully looked at the map on the Hurricane screen again. There were no human gathering places around. The nearest one was 200 kilometers away. It shouldn't be possible that humans have cleaned up this place, right? Is it a mutated creature? This is possible. After all, mutant creatures do not distinguish between humans and zombies. As long as they are flesh and blood, they will be interested. Therefore, it is also possible that there are a large group of mutant creatures nearby and have killed all the zombies that were originally entrenched in this town. Wang Feng was driving the Hurricane through the town while paying attention to the surrounding situation. However, because he was in the Hurricane now, his field of vision was not very good. Although the Hurricane had surveillance cameras, he could see the situation around him. However, These monitors do not have the function of seeing through the fog, so they are far less clear than what Wang Feng can see with his own eyes. Old Lu. Come and drive, I'll go up and take a look. Wang Feng turned around and called to Lu Feng, who was sitting in the passenger seat with his eyes closed and concentrating. Then he stopped the hurricane and prepared to go outside the car to have a look. If this town is really what's more, if the zombies among them were cleaned up by mutated creatures, Wang Feng would definitely be quite depressed, because in this way, he would definitely lose a lot of apocalypse points. After coming outside, Wang Feng's vision suddenly became clearer, but he still didn't find anything. The whole town seemed like a dead town, and the silence seemed a bit like being in Zhuangqiao town before. Damn. There must be a rat king here too, right? Mars also followed out. Although he didn't have Wang Feng's ability to see through the fog, he could still see clearly within at least 10 meters. I wonder if it's not that simple, Hao Shui said with a relaxed face, then took out a grenade, followed what Wang Feng did before in Zhuangqiao town, pulled the fuse, and threw it into a nearby in a building. Bang, the explosion sounded, but it didn't seem to cause any other noise. After the explosion, the surroundings were still very quiet. Holy crap! What's going on here? Is there nothing here? Huaxing was stunned. Over there. Lao Lu. Drive the car to the church, Wang Feng pointed at a large church in the center of the town and said. Then, with a flicker of his own figure, he had already rushed towards the church. Mars and others hurriedly ran back to the hurricane. Since there was a discovery in this town, they should be more conservative and be safer in the hurricane. After all, they did not have Wang Feng's ability to see through the thick fog. In the fog, there the visual distance is less than 10 meters, and it's not that clear. The hurricane hadn't started yet, but Wang Feng had already passed in front of the church. When Hao Shui threw the grenade and made an explosion, Wang Feng clearly saw a shadow passing through the window of the church, but because the appearance was very brief, so Wang Feng did not see clearly what the figure was. Looking at the closed church, Wang Feng walked forward cautiously, pushed the door gently, and found that the door of the church was bolted on the inside. He couldn't help but frowned. Could it be that this church are there humans among them? If it was a zombie or a mutated creature, it shouldn't have bolted the door on the inside, right? Thinking of this, Wang Feng did not act rashly, but waited for Lu Feng and the others to arrive. Lu Feng quickly drove the hurricane to the front of the church, then walked out of the car and came to Wang Feng. What's going on? Lu Feng looked up at the church, then at Wang Feng, and asked. I don't know, there is something in this church. I saw it just now, but I can't be sure whether it is a human or some other creature. Moreover, the door of this church is now bolted from the inside. I am thinking about that thing inside. Could the creature be human? Wang Feng said with a frown. Just ask. After hearing this, Lu Feng looked at the church door again, then walked forward, knocked hard on the church door a few times, and shouted loudly, Is there anyone there? We are the Hope Base Exploration Team. If you are human, please open the door, we have no harm. Lu Feng's voice echoed over the silent town, which seemed very harsh. If there were people in the church, they would definitely be able to hear it. However, after waiting for a long time, they did not get any response. Lu Feng looked back at Wang Feng, with a questioning look in his eyes. Wang Feng thought for a moment, walked forward, summoned the Apocalypse Blade, inserted the Apocalypse Blade through the crack of the door, and slowly moved it upwards. This church is a retro-style building with a dome and a large cross at the highest point. The door of the church also looks like an ancient bolt, which is a lever that passes through the handle behind the door to bolt the door. After Apocalypse touched the bolt, Wang Feng did not use force to cut the bolt directly, but swung Apocalypse left and right, moving the bolt to the side little by little. In less than a minute, the door was opened by Wang Feng. Pushing open the two huge wooden doors, Wang Feng saw the situation in the church. This church was no different from other churches, except that it looked very big. This church was as high as 8 or 9 floors. The whole chapel seemed very empty. The round dome was painted with various patterns with colorful dyes, but because Wang Feng was not a Christian, he could not make sense of these paintings. In addition to the large chapel in the center of the church, there were many layers of stairs around the chapel, and there were many rooms on other floors, which was a bit like the structure of the atrium of a shopping mall, but I don't know what those rooms are used for. "Is anyone there?" Wang Feng shouted in the church, but still did not get any response. He looked at the stairs on both sides, and finally stopped his gaze at a window on the 3rd floor. He just saw the figure that passed by in that window. Lu Feng strode forward and looked carefully at the long chairs in the church. He even stretched out his hand and rubbed them. The chairs were covered with thick dust, and it seemed that they had not been cleaned for a long time. So Lu Feng looked at Wang Feng and shook his head, indicating that there seemed to be no one here. After thinking about it, Wang Feng jumped directly to the window he was concerned about. He first looked down at the ground and found that there was also a thick layer of dust on the ground. Moreover, when he walked by, he left clear footprints on the floor. However, after carefully looking around the window, Wang Feng found that except for his own footprints, there was no trace at all to indicate that someone had appeared here. However, Wang Feng was very sure that he had indeed seen a shadow passing by in this window just now. It was definitely not an illusion, but what could pass by the window without leaving any traces? Wang Feng walked towards the room on the side. He would go in to check every room he passed. This time, he finally made some discoveries. On the floor of a room, Wang Feng saw 2 paw prints side by side. These 2 paw prints were a bit strange. Although he knew that they were definitely not left by humans, they did not look like the paws of any creatures that Wang Feng knew. These 2 paw prints were side by side, and the distance between them should be about 1.5 feet. Compared with normal humans, they were wider. They looked similar to human feet, but they only had 3 toes, and these 3 toes were very large, which seemed a bit weird. Wang Feng squatted down and looked at the 2 paw prints carefully, but he could not tell what creature they belonged to. However, judging from the paw prints, the creature's body should not be very large, at least, it should not exceed the size of a human. "I found 2 paw prints, which proves that there is indeed an unknown creature in this church. Be careful and try not to separate. Be cautious before finding this creature," Wang Feng shouted outside the room. Because the church was relatively empty, his voice could be heard by Lu Feng and others. "Got it, boss," Mars' voice came, and then he said, "Hao Shui, Li Fei. Let's form a group of 3 and let Lao Lu follow those 2 guys to eat dog food." Tisk. "What's wrong with eating dog food? I don't want to give it to you if you want to eat me," Zhang Xiu's unconvinced voice sounded, but she seemed to have discovered it immediately and screamed loudly, "Ah! Look! What is that?" Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 374. After hearing Zhang Xiu's scream, Wang Feng immediately ran out of the room where he was, and then looked in the direction Zhang Xiu pointed, and then he found that there were 3 alien creatures on the dome of the church, covered by those oil paintings. Their bodies are much smaller than normal adults, and they are attached to the round dome of the church like geckos. They are blood red and look very ferocious. You can't see where their eyes are, but the tongues of these 3 creatures are all very long, and they are swinging like whips at this time. Damn! Lickers, Mars couldn't help but screamed after seeing the appearance of these 3 mutant creatures, and then he jumped up a little excitedly. "I said it, there are even tyrants, how can there be no lickers?" Mars. "Have you seen this kind of thing?" Lu Feng frowned, then looked at Mars and asked. "I've seen it before. This is a zombie, but it should be an agile zombie, and it looks the same as the licker in Resident Evil. This guy is the final boss in Resident Evil 1. In the end, he was killed because his tongue was too long. Mars seemed to be a little excited because he saw a familiar creature. Humph. I think you will be killed because you talk too much in the future, Zhang Xiu snorted coldly. Because the appearance of the liquor was very ugly and did not conform to the aesthetics of girls, Zhang Xiu could not control herself when she first discovered the three liquors and screamed. Now she may feel that her previous behavior was a bit embarrassing, and her face was not very good. At this time, the three liquors seemed to know that they were discovered, so they still moved their bodies slowly, as if they wanted to find a suitable angle to attack Wang Feng and others. Hiss, the liquor in the middle adjusted its position left and right, then suddenly let out a hoarse roar, and then pounced on Wang Feng head-on, at a very fast speed, almost in the blink of an eye, it came to Wang Feng's front. However, compared with Wang Feng's speed, it was obvious that this liquor zombie had chosen the wrong target. Wang Feng casually summoned the blade of apocalypse, and directly cut the tongue of the liquor that was stabbing at him like a venomous snake. In the splashing blood, the tongue of the liquor was directly cut off by Wang Feng, and then Wang Feng's apocalypse did not stop, and swung it towards the liquor in mid-air. Puff, the liquor's tumor-like head was directly split open by Wang Feng. In front of Wang Feng, it didn't even have a face-to-face encounter, and was killed by Wang Feng. Looking at the corpse of the liquor on the ground, the two liquors above that were still ready to join the attack could not help but become cautious. They stopped their movements of wanting to pounce, and instead retreated to both sides, quickly entering the room on the top floor and disappeared. Doesn't it look difficult to deal with, Wang Feng said, looking at the corpse of the liquor on the ground. Well, it seems easy to deal with one, but, who knows how many there are. Mars looked at the direction where the two liquors disappeared, and said casually, in the Resident Evil series of movies, there have been scenes of a large number of liquors attacking the tyrant. Maybe there are quite a few liquors in this town. Wang Feng was stunned, then turned to look at the door of the church, and his face changed. Mars, you are such a bad guy. What you say comes true. Through the fog, Wang Feng clearly saw that thousands of liquors outside were rushing towards the church like a tide. This was only the direction he could see through the church gate. If the situation in other directions was the same, then there might be hundreds of thousands or even millions of these liquor zombies in this town. When Wang Feng killed the liquor just now, he looked at the apocalypse points it provided him and found that it was about the same as the mutant zombies. In other words, this liquor did not reach the level of the tyrant, and was even inferior to the mutant zombie king. It was a zombie of the same level as the mutant zombies. However, if there were enough of them, perhaps his gains here would even exceed those in Juking City. Although Wang Feng did not know why the zombies here were all the zombies called liquors by Mars, it was obvious that this situation was not a bad thing for him. Now Wang Feng's main task was to kill zombies and accumulate apocalypse points, because he did not know whether he could advance within a month, so his current goal was very clear, which was to kill crazily and turn all the 7,000 or 8,000 guardian warriors into awakened ones first. Wang Feng's first goal was clear: when the vanguard of the alien creatures arrived here, he would kill them all at all costs to buy a year for humanity. As for whether they could continue to defeat the enemy after a year, that was up to fate. Due to the large number of liquors, Wang Feng and his men had to form a small circle in the middle of the church to prepare for the battle. Now they had no time to return to the hurricane, and seeing that the liquors were very agile, they could not gain any advantage even if they stood on the hurricane. However, their current position is quite disadvantageous for fighting against the liquors, because those liquors are very flexible and can fly over the eaves and walls, just like geckos. In other words, the liquors they are fighting now, in addition to the ground attacking them, they also have to guard against the attacks of liquors swooping down from the air. It's just that because the liquors appeared too fast, Wang Feng and his team had no time to adjust their position and had to fight hastily, and they couldn't even go back to the hurricane. Countless liquors poured into the church, and a large number of liquors continued to pour into the windows of the church. In just a few minutes, the entire church was already full of liquors. The dense number of liquors made Zhang Xiu feel a little scared. This is because the appearance of the liquors is really not flattering. Whether from the appearance or from their skin color, these liquors can be described as disgusting. After all the liquors rushed in, they did not attack immediately, but surrounded Wang Feng and others. Countless tongues were flying in the air, which looked quite spectacular. However, if there were people with trypophobia here, they would not feel so comfortable. The liquors did not attack immediately, which made Wang Feng's heart move, because the liquors he saw now were basically the same in appearance, but it seemed unlikely that these liquors did not have a leader, but if they had a leader, where would this leader be? Wang Feng looked up and down, left and right, and did not find any liquor with a special image. Perhaps, the leader of this group of zombies, like other zombies, would not appear when there was no sure victory. Wang Feng looked outside again, and he found that the number of liquors seemed to be gathering more and more. Now, even outside the church, there were dense liquors. It seemed that they wanted to wait until all the reinforcements arrived here before launching an attack on them. Wang Feng looked at the rooms above and suddenly felt depressed. They should have reacted faster just now and entered any room above randomly, which would have been better than being in the chapel of this church now. At least, in those rooms, they should only need to guard against the zombies rushing in from the door and window, instead of being like now, where the liquors can attack them from almost any direction except for the feet. Now Wang Feng and his team only have 7 people, and the manpower is not so sufficient. Moreover, even the awakened ones do not have endless physical strength. Fortunately, with the support of Apocalypse, they may be able to hold on for a day or two, but Lu Feng and his team should not be able to do so. Although they have not tried the awakened one's extreme physical strength, judging from the consumption of releasing their superpowers, if the awakened ones who use all their strength basically maintain a state of complete victory, this time will not exceed an hour. It's only an hour, and it is unlikely to kill all these liquors, so Wang Feng must now think of a way and can't drag it out in the meantime. The number of these liquors is enough to consume them all to death here. Old Lu, Wang Feng shouted to Lu Feng, do you see the room on the 2nd floor? After we start the battle, we have 2 choices. One is to enter that room, which is closest to us. After entering, we can take turns to defend and recover each other's strength. Moreover, the space there is large enough for us to exert ourselves. The other is that we rush to the door and try to rush to the hurricane. We can defend the hurricane. When we feel that it is not working, we can retreat at any time. Which one do you think is better? Go to the 2nd floor. Damn it, I can't be scared to death by these ugly monsters, Lu Feng shouted loudly. As soon as Wang Feng asked his question, Lu Feng heard the hidden meaning in Wang Feng's words. Obviously, it would be safer to go to the hurricane because they could retreat at any time by driving the hurricane. However, if they were to defend next to the hurricane, it would not be much different from being here because it was just as open and in front of the church. Compared to being here, the only advantage was that when they felt their strength was about to run out, they could all hide in the hurricane. The claws of these liquors would not be able to break through the hurricane's solid armor. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 375. If they enter the room on the 2nd floor, as Wang Feng said, they can get a chance to replace and take turns to recover their physical strength, but choosing there means that they will fight to the death with these liquors. Unless one side is completely wiped out, the battle will not really end. Lu Feng now knows that time is the most important thing. They can only fight hard and have no time to eat these liquors bit by bit. Besides, who knows what the breakthrough after the awakening will be like? In short, it should be right to let yourself experience more high-intensity battles. In fact, Wang Feng also thought so, but after all, this choice would be dangerous, and he was a little hesitant in his heart. Now that Lu Feng has said it, Wang Feng has made up his mind. If they don't fight now, maybe when the day comes when alien creatures invade, they won't even be qualified to fight. Okay. Su Mo and Zhang Xiu, you two are behind me, Huo Xing, you three are in the middle, and Lao Lu is the last, follow me and charge together, Wang Feng roared, then switched the blade of Apocalypse to the bow of Apocalypse, pulled the longbow, and shot a large number of ice arrows at the lickers in front. At the same time, Wang Feng also rushed forward. Su Mo and Zhang Xiu followed Wang Feng on the left and right, and the bayonets in their hands kept stabbing at the lickers covered with frost, killing them continuously. Huo Xing and others followed closely behind, and the weapons in their hands also desperately greeted the surrounding lickers. However, since the bayonet is a short weapon, it is a bit difficult to deal with the lickers. The main reason was that the tongue of the licker was really difficult to deal with. It was about 3 meters long. When it was unleashed, it was difficult for them to rush to the licker's side to attack it. Compared with them, Lu Feng seemed much more relaxed. After knowing that his ability was to control metal, Lu Feng made 2 leather bags specially filled with soybean-sized steel balls. Now Lu Feng's hands kept reaching into the 2 leather bags hanging on his waist, and then he kept throwing those steel balls to the lickers around. When the steel balls left Lu Feng's palm, they turned into very thin steel needles and nailed into the heads of those lickers one by one. Now Lu Feng has the demeanor of some ancient Tang sect disciples. Although his accuracy is not very good, his ability is to control metal. All the steel needles that missed the target returned to his hands again under his control, and then were thrown out again until they hit the target. In fact, even those steel needles that were nailed into the zombies' heads could be retrieved by Lu Feng, but because of the obstruction of the zombies' skulls, it would take a lot of physical strength to retrieve them, which was not worth the loss, so Lu Feng only retrieved those steel needles that did not hit. The 7 people in the group showed their magical powers, and led by Wang Feng, the arrowhead, they charged towards the 2nd floor. The lickers around them seemed to have not expected that Wang Feng and his team would dare to take the initiative to attack when they had an absolute advantage in numbers. For a while, they were in chaos and were rushed to the 2nd floor by Wang Feng and his team. However, at this time, all these lickers also reacted and began to attack Wang Feng and his team. Almost within a few breaths, Wang Feng and his team were almost completely filled with lickers, and even under their feet, there were lickers' tongues attacking them. Seeing this scene, Wang Feng shouted loudly, and countless arrows with ice shot out from his body, nailing the lickers rushing around in the air one after another, and the ice energy carried by the arrows immediately spread, and the lickers around who were not hit by arrows were also covered with frost, reducing their speed. Quick! Rush in, Wang Feng shouted loudly. Now he couldn't support an ice field around his body like he did when he killed the bees, because his ice field was the same as Duan Lei's thunderstorm, which was an indiscriminate attack. If the ice field was deployed, the first to be unlucky would be Su Mo and Zhang Xiu beside him, so Wang Feng could only use ice arrows with greater consumption to slow down the attacks of these lickers. Fortunately, they have already rushed to the 2nd floor, so there is a wall on their right and a guardrail on their left. The right wall will not be attacked. As for the guardrail, it is not very useful, because countless lickers are lying on the guardrail, using it as a jumping point to attack Wang Feng and others. But at least now they have one less direction to defend, and now they are less than 5 meters away from the room they had previously favored. It is estimated that they can reach it with a little more effort. Old Lu, Wang Feng shouted loudly to Lu Feng, who was at the end of the team. Lu Feng turned around and saw that they were close to the door of the room, but at this time the door of the room was blocked by lickers, so he understood what Wang Feng meant and shouted, "Get out of the way." The Martian trio quickly moved to both sides. Su Mo and Zhang Xiu did not fall behind, only Wang Feng, after Lu Feng said this, not only did not move away, but rushed towards Lu Feng. Lu Feng ignored Wang Feng and directly launched his superpower at the door of the room, Invincible Impact. In an instant, Lu Feng's figure rushed into the room, knocking away all the liquors blocking the door, and then, Lu Feng's body disappeared from their sight, and he had already rushed into the room. After Lu Feng rushed over, Wang Feng had already appeared in Lu Feng's original position, replacing him as the last one, and then turned back and shouted, "Everyone go in. Quick! I'll cover you." In fact, there was no need for Wang Feng to command. Su Mo and Zhang Xiu had already followed Lu Feng when Lu Feng rushed past them, and ran into the room from the path he opened up. Huo Xing and Li Fei also flew up at this time and kicked Hao Shui. Hao Shui stretched out his hands and patted the two men's feet, sending them directly into the room. In other words, when Lu Feng entered, after entering the room, the others followed closely and entered the room. Only Hao Shui and Wang Feng were left outside. Wang Feng suddenly paused at this moment, because after the previous round of explosion, Wang Feng had almost exhausted his physical strength. You know, firing ice arrows consumes more physical strength than maintaining the ice field. Moreover, during the charge just now, Wang Feng did not hold back at all, and used all his strength. This allowed them to rush to the second floor smoothly in such a short time and come to the room they had chosen in advance. Of course, this was also related to the fact that the liquors were not prepared for them, because their attack direction was the second floor, not outside the church. If they had just rushed to the outside of the church, they would probably have encountered even greater resistance. At least, the tens of thousands of liquors at the door of the church would definitely be enough for them to drink a pot. Brother Feng, Hao Shui seemed to sense that something was wrong with Wang Feng at this time, and hurriedly shouted, and tried to approach Wang Feng, but Wang Feng hurriedly stopped him, "Go in quickly. Don't worry about me." Hao Shui hesitated for a moment, and then chose to follow Wang Feng's command. He stretched out his hands and grabbed the tongues of the two liquors who attacked him with their tongues. Then he waved his arms directly, using the two liquors as meteor hammers, constantly smashing the liquors who pounced on him and killing them all the way to the room where Lu Feng and his friends were. It's just that the tongues of the two liquors were not too strong. After waving a few times, one of them broke directly, and the tongue of the other liquor was pulled out by Hao Shui, turning it into a very disgusting long whip. At this time, Wang Feng was waiting for Tiankai to instantly restore his physical strength. Although after using the instant recovery, he would not be able to use this instant recovery again within 15 hours, but now Wang Feng could not care about so many things. Besides, now except for him, all his people have entered the room. Although from the sound of fighting in the room, there are also a large number of liquors in the room, but after cleaning up the room, they will be much more relaxed. Now Wang Feng just hopes that the window of the room is not too big. Otherwise, they will still face the situation of being attacked from both sides. At this time, because of Wang Feng's pause, he has been surrounded by liquors again. Although there are many liquors who are covered with frost and in a slow state, there are still many liquors who stretched out their claws to grab Wang Feng, bringing countless blood grooves on his body. Several liquors stretched out their tongues and tightly wrapped around Wang Feng's limbs, trying to control him or tear him apart. However, at this time, Apocalypse had already completed the recovery of Wang Feng's physical strength, and Wang Feng had returned to his prime again. However, at this time, Wang Feng did not explode again like before, and did not even release his own ice field. Wang Feng simply switched the form of the Apocalypse bow again, turning it into the Apocalypse blade. In the flash of dazzling cold light, the tongues wrapped around his limbs were cut off one after another, accompanied by the painful roars of those liquors. Then, the Apocalypse in Wang Feng's hand opened and closed, and the liquors around him were cut into several sections by the sharp Apocalypse, and there was no way to stop Wang Feng's footsteps. With the help of the sharpness of Apocalypse, Wang Feng forcibly killed a bloody path among the corpses and rushed directly into the room. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 376. After entering the room, Wang Feng looked inside the room and finally breathed a sigh of relief. In addition to the door he came in, there was only a small skylight in this room. Although there were still lickers coming in from there, with such a small number of them, it should be possible to defend it with just one person. At this time, Lu Feng and his team had almost killed all the lickers inside, especially Hao Shui. After throwing away the two unlucky lickers whose tongues he caught, this guy picked up two more lickers, but this time he caught the legs of the lickers. He used these two lickers as weapons and smashed all the zombies around him crazily. Hao Shui's body defense is now quite strong. Although he was caught by the lickers several times like Wang Feng, his skin was not damaged. Now Hao Shui's ability has directly turned into a body-protecting stone skin, which can greatly strengthen his skin. Therefore, although Hao Shui does not have any large-scale attack skills now, his defense is the strongest among the crowd. After seeing the situation in the room, Wang Feng turned around and guarded the door, because the lickers in the room would soon be killed by Lu Feng and his team. As long as he guarded the door, there would be no problem inside. By the way, he could let them rest and recover their strength. This battle would probably not be resolved in 1 or 2 days. If he wanted to win this battle, he would probably have to rely on time to wear down these lickers. Thanks to this room that was easy to defend but difficult to attack, Wang Feng and his team quickly controlled the situation. Although there were many lickers, they could only attack from the door. The skylight could only come in one by one, and it was a bit difficult for two to squeeze in together, so the skylight was now handed over to Su Mo and Zhang Xiu to deal with. Because Zhang Xiu and Su Mo, who had no long-range attack skills, could not defend at all at the door. After all, the long tongue of the licker was very annoying. It might be good in some aspects, but it would only make those without long-range attacks feel painful when used in attacks. Therefore, only Wang Feng, Lu Feng, and Su Mo could resist at the gate. Because Su Mo, Huo Xing, and Li Fei cooperated well with each other, whenever Su Mo was in front, Huo Xing and Li Fei would stand behind him to assist him. They fought well. In a blink of an eye, Wang Feng and his men had been holding on in this room for nearly a whole day. During this day, they killed these lickers at a rate of 1 every 2 or 3 seconds. Therefore, nearly 30,000 lickers died in their hands during this day. Fortunately, Wang Feng was among them. He kept collecting the bodies of the lickers into his own space, so that they were not buried by the bodies of the zombies. However, even after killing so many zombies, Wang Feng and his team still did not see how many fewer lickers there were. The lickers in the entire church were still endless, as if they had not decreased at all. Even in the skylight, there were still lickers coming in to die. Although the lickers coming in from the skylight did not achieve any results, these zombies still stubbornly crawled in from any entrance they could enter the room. This should be the horror of zombies. They have no fear at all. As long as there is a creature in front of them, they will attack it at the risk of their lives and will never give up until they achieve their goal. During this period of time, Wang Feng has been patrolling among these lickers, hoping to find a special licker, but after a whole day, he has not found anything, as if there is no leader among these lickers, and all these attacks are initiated by their instincts. Now, after holding on for a day, everyone's physical strength has all declined a little. This is because Wang Feng took over the defense for most of the time. If it weren't for Apocalypse, they probably wouldn't have been able to hold on for so long. Even Wang Feng had to use Apocalypse's instant recovery again to be able to still hold on at the door and resist the attack of the lickers. Now Wang Feng was secretly glad that his Apocalypse blade would change its appearance with the upgrade. If Apocalypse was still in the form of a dagger, he would probably have to spend a lot more effort to guard the door. Seeing that the church was still crowded with 100,000 lickers, Wang Feng looked a little serious. Just now, he had tried to switch to the Apocalypse bow while guarding the door and shoot some lickers in the distance, but after these lickers were killed, they were directly torn apart by their own kind and swallowed as food. Seeing this scene, Wang Feng did not dare to use long-range attacks to kill the lickers. Who knows if these lickers will be promoted like other zombies after eating the corpses of their own kind. Besides, Wang Feng had no way to absorb the life energy in the bodies of those lickers killed remotely, so he would not waste it. Fortunately, the current situation is not bad. At least they can hold on. If the situation does not change, then killing these lickers is just a matter of time for them. However, these lickers do not seem to be willing to waste time with Wang Feng and his men. However, Wang Feng and his companions were now trapped in the room. They had no way to observe the lickers outside the church. Although there was a small skylight in the room, the lickers kept squeezing in from the skylight, so they basically could not see anything outside from the skylight. Where did all these high-level zombies come from? And they are all at the same level. This seems a bit abnormal, right? Looking at the lickers outside who did not decrease at all, Mars could not help complaining. Have you seen any normal phenomena since entering this apocalypse? Hao Shui said disdainfully. That's right, I really haven't seen it, Mars said a little disappointed. Do you feel that these zombies seem to be very similar to an animal? Lu Feng suddenly asked. What? Animals? Everyone was stunned, and then looked at the lickers that kept pouring in outside the door. It seems, a bit like a wolf, Mars looked at it and said hesitantly. That's right. It's a wolf. After Huaxing's reminder, Hao Shui jumped up suddenly. Teamwork, cruelty to their companions, and the ability to eat their companions' corpses, all seem to be a bit similar to a wolf pack. So, will there be a wolf leader among them? Lu Feng asked again. Everyone was silent, because they didn't find any special existence among these lickers. I guess there is. Wang Feng, who was standing at the door to defend, said, but, generally speaking, the wolf leader is more cunning and smart. I guess it won't appear before there is hope of victory. Then, when these zombies lose more than half, will they run away? Huaxing suddenly became a little worried. These lickers are very fast. If they flee in all directions, they will not be able to wipe them all out. In this case, it may pose a threat to their follow-up troops, and they have no time to waste now, so once the situation described by Mars really happens, when these lickers lose more than half and feel that they cannot kill Wang Feng and his team, if they flee in all directions, it will bring more trouble to Wang Feng and his team than fighting them to the death. I hope not, Wang Feng sighed, and his men moved faster. However, even so, if all these lickers are killed, even if the number of lickers outside is still unknown, just counting those in the church, it may be enough for them to continue killing for 2 or 3 days, and this is also because these lickers really fight with them to the death and do not run away. Listen. What's the sound? Suddenly, Zhang Xiu stretched out his hand to stop everyone's chat and said. Hearing Zhang Xiu's words, everyone in the room shut up and tried to listen to the movements around them. After a while, everyone shook their heads. No. I didn't hear anything, Huaxing said with a puzzled look. Are you hallucinating? No. I just heard a sound, it seems like something hitting something. Zhang Xiu nailed a licker that crawled through the skylight with the bayonet in her hand, pulled its tongue down and threw it aside and said. After this period of killing, Zhang Xiu has become immune to the appearance of the licker. At least, she dares to pull the tongue of the licker with her hands now. When she saw the licker just now, Zhang Xiu would never do this action. This kind of slippery snake-like thing has always been hated by girls. Well, of course, they don't hate all snake-like things, but they definitely don't like any objects or parts on the zombies. As for what they like, let everyone guess it by themselves. Lao Huan can't be so dirty. Really? How come I? Mars had just said half of his words when a loud bang suddenly sounded outside the church. Then, it seemed that the entire church was shaken, and the room they were in was also shaken. A lot of dust kept falling from the walls and ceiling. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 377. Hear it? That's it, Zhang Xiu jumped up and shouted. Hear it? What the hell is that noise? Huaxing also jumped up and shouted, is the house being demolished? Demolishing the house, Wang Feng's heart moved, and he turned around and said, Old Lu. Try looking out from the skylight and see if you can see anything. Okay, without saying anything, Lu Feng jumped up and stretched out his hand to hold the skylight. Then he activated his supernatural power and minced the two lickers who had just entered the skylight into meat sauce, and then looked outside, but soon he shook his head helplessly and jumped down. I can't see it, there is no angle at all. Bang, another loud noise sounded, and this time the vibration in the church was more obvious. Everyone felt the strong vibration. Wang Feng frowned and immediately felt something was wrong. Old Lu. You come to guard. I'll go out and take a look. Brother Feng. Let me go. My defense is stronger, Hao Shui volunteered, because when he was outside before, he saw Wang Feng's body full of scars from being scratched by those lickers. Although Wang Feng's scars healed inexplicably later, he was still scratched after all, so Hao Shui was a little worried about Wang Feng. No. I'll go out. You save your energy, Wang Feng flatly refused, and then directly launched a gust of wind and rushed out. The moment he disappeared at the door, Lu Feng took his place and blocked the attack of those lickers. The lickers didn't seem to expect Wang Feng to suddenly rush out. Before they could react, Wang Feng had already rushed out of the church. From the second floor to the church door, it was less than 20 meters away. For Wang Feng, who launched the gale, this distance was less than a second. Of course, they had no chance to react. After arriving at the door, Wang Feng took a breath of cold air. There were more lickers outside than in the church. If all were added together, the total number would definitely exceed 500,000. Seeing the number of these lickers, Wang Feng did not hesitate at all. He waved Apocalypse and killed the lickers in front of him one by one. Then he came to the door of Hurricane. Before those lickers pounced on him, he opened the door and got in. Then he kicked away the two lickers following behind him and closed the door. He quickly ran to the cab and started the Hurricane. Fortunately, the Hurricane was powered by light energy, so it was still very powerful and could be started at any time in this foggy environment, which relieved Wang Feng of many worries. Driving the Hurricane around the side of the church, Wang Feng immediately found the source of the sound. Mars was right. This sound was indeed the sound of demolishing a house, and it was the church they were in. Countless lickers worked together to lift pieces of huge stones that they didn't know where to find to a high-rise building next to the church, and then pushed them hard towards the church. When the huge stones hit the wall of the church, it would make a loud bang. Bang sound. Fortunately, the building was still quite far from the church, so most of the boulders fell directly on the ground near the church and did not cause direct damage to the church. However, if they continued in this way, if one of the boulders was lucky enough to hit the skylight of the room they were in, their defense area might be expanded. Although they were on the second floor of the church, height was not a problem for these lickers who could fly over the eaves and walls. What shocked Wang Feng the most was that these lickers had obviously gained some wisdom and knew that they relied on that room to defend their attacks, and would use the boulders to try to break through the wall of the room they were in. What worried Wang Feng the most was that there was a giant crane next to the church, which was already covered with lickers, as if they wanted to overturn the crane and smash the church. Wang Feng used his eyes to measure the distance between the crane and the church, and found that if the crane really fell, it would really hit the church. Although it might not be able to directly destroy the entire church, it was still a certain danger to them. In this short period of less than a minute, the entire Hurricane was already full of lickers, but their claws and teeth had no destructive power on the Hurricane. In addition to their claws and teeth, which made a harsh sound when destroying the body of the hurricane, they were completely powerless against the armor of the hurricane that could defend against rocket attacks. However, Wang Feng could not stay in the hurricane forever. He did not even dare to park the hurricane in front of the church. Although the tower crane seemed to be as stable as a mountain, no one could guarantee that it could stand there forever. So Wang Feng parked the hurricane directly in the square in front of the church. In this way, even if the church collapsed, the hurricane would not be buried inside. After parking the hurricane, Wang Feng first came to the carriage and threw out the bodies of the lickers in the apocalypse. He did not stop until the rear compartment of the hurricane was filled. Then Wang Feng got out of the car. He did not choose the door on the side of the hurricane, but the top hatch at the shooting position at the top of the hurricane. After opening the hatch, Wang Feng punched a licker that tried to get in to attack him, then got out immediately, closed the hatch, and entered the church again. This time when he entered, Wang Feng was attacked by many lickers. However, under the wave of apocalypse, these lickers were cut off one after another, and then they were taken into apocalypse space by Wang Feng. After knowing these lickers would directly eat the corpses of their companions, Wang Feng no longer dared to leave the lickers' corpses to their own kind, but chose to take them into the apocalypse space. Fortunately, Tiankai's space has now reached a scale of 100 meters in length, width, and height. I'm afraid it won't be a big problem to fit all the lickers present, so now Wang Feng's problem is how to get all these lickers. Kill. Rushing all the way to the room on the second floor, Wang Feng was injured again, but obviously these injuries were not a big deal to Wang Feng. With Apocalypse's repair function, it wouldn't take long for Wang Feng to fully recover, especially now that Wang Feng's Apocalypse points are skyrocketing. The more than 30,000 lickers killed before have all been absorbed by Wang Feng. This is the energy equivalent to 30,000 mutant zombies. It can be said that Wang Feng's harvest now has far exceeded what he gained in Juking City. Moreover, this number is only about 1/2 of the total number of lickers on site. If he can really attack them all, by killing these lickers, I hope that the base will have at least 2,000 more awakened ones, which is a pretty huge number. So now, even though the lickers outside are thinking of ways to attack the church, Wang Feng, who is already optimistic about the situation, does not rush to lead Lu Feng and the others out. Instead, he decides to continue to hold on here until something unexpected happens. Wang Feng saw clearly just now that neither the lickers who threw stones at the church nor the tower crane that seemed to be smashing into the church would directly threaten their lives. At most, they would only destroy the church where they lived. If not known in advance, there may be casualties among everyone due to uneven distribution of physical strength. But now that Wang Feng has understood the situation outside, he will naturally not distribute everyone's physical strength as before. In the past, Wang Feng always looked at his own physical strength. When his physical strength was about to be exhausted, he would let Lu Feng or Hao Shui will replace him. He will not take over again until the two people are exhausted, letting them rest in the back and recover their strength. Now that he knows that this room may be breached at any time, Wang Feng will of course keep a hand and will not let anyone in the room use up all their energy. However, this will definitely increase his workload. But Wang Feng was still prepared to continue to hold on. After he came back, he did not immediately take over Lu Feng's position. Instead, he first collected all the corpses of the lickers who had been killed and dragged into the room during the time he had left. He got up, then asked Lu Feng to step back, and then replaced Lu Feng to guard the door. While killing the lickers who were still rushing toward him crazily, he explained the situation outside in detail. Holy shit! Zombies can actually use tools? Is it getting harder and harder to survive in this apocalypse? After hearing Wang Feng's narration, Mars couldn't help but be stunned for a while, and then murmured. Nah. Will there be zombies attacking us in tanks or something like that in the future? Hao Shui also asked with some trepidation. Get out. Even I can't open that thing. How can zombies do it? They are probably just like smarter monkeys now. They just rely on instinct to use those things to attack us. Besides, they can use tools. Zombies, isn't this the first time we've met? Lu Feng immediately retorted and said nonchalantly. Last time in Juking City, didn't the alienated zombie king who almost killed me know how to use weapons? And that guy actually knew how to modify his own weapons. He was much smarter than those idiots outside. In the end, he didn't, or were you killed by us? How dare you scare yourself and drive a tank? Why don't you say these zombies can fly planes and go to Mars? You. Lao Lu. What the hell are you talking about? I didn't recruit you, why did you bring me along? Martian suddenly became furious and jumped up in protest. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 378. Go play somewhere else, kid. Lu Feng looked at Huaxing with disdain, his face full of contempt. The Huaxing I'm talking about is that Huaxing, not you, ha? Do you need to fly a plane to get on? It's not your turn to shoot down a plane. Huaxing looked depressed when he heard Lu Feng's words, but he couldn't refute it. He couldn't just pull the going to Mars on himself, right? Okay. This is the situation outside now. You all pay attention to conserving your energy. Once this church is destroyed, immediately follow me and charge with all your strength to gather at Hurricane. I parked Hurricane at the door of the church, 50 meters away from the 12 o'clock direction, Wang Feng said. The only thing he relied on to stay in the church was the Hurricane. As long as they can bring people into the Hurricane, at least they should be able to get out of it unscathed. As for the liquors here, Wang Feng can go back to the Hope Base first, exchange the accumulated apocalypse points for awakening potions, and then wait for the Guardian Warriors to complete their awakening, and then take them out to sweep. Although it will waste more than 10 days, the efficiency will also be improved, and for safety, it can only be done this way. The sound of stones falling to the ground or hitting the walls of the church outside the church still sounded from time to time, and it became more and more frequent as time went by, but Wang Feng and the others already knew the reason and had prepared, so no one cared, and now in order to save physical strength, Lu Feng used the metal in the room and blocked the skylight, so now it was equivalent to guarding the door. And Lu Feng also made a few spears for others, so that they could deal with those liquors more conveniently, unlike using bayonets. When another day passed, there was a zia sound outside the church. It seemed that the tower crane was finally overwhelmed and was about to be overturned by these liquors. Everyone, get ready. We are going out, Wang Feng shouted. Now they have basically killed 70,000 to 80,000 liquors. Although everyone was carefully conserving their energy, after all, they had experienced 2 or 3 consecutive days of fighting, and they were always facing this kind of creature. Whether it was physically or mentally, Wang Feng and his men were already very tired. In particular, Wang Feng had long known the real number of these liquors. He knew that in the past 2 days, they had only killed a little more than 1/10 of the liquors. There were still hundreds of thousands of liquors waiting to pounce on them and tear them apart after the church was breached. Such a large number of liquors, all of which were fast-moving, would be in a continuous killing if they lost the church's favorable terrain, and they would no longer have time to rest. Once their physical strength was exhausted, they might fall here one after another. Now, their only hope is the Hurricane. Only by entering the Hurricane can they get a chance to breathe and leave here at any time. Although there are many liquors, they have basically no destructive power to the outer shell of the Hurricane, so the Hurricane can at least temporarily become their shelter. However, Wang Feng did not go out immediately, because the church is still crowded with liquors. According to Wang Feng's inference, these liquors must have a leader. Since there is a leader, when the church collapses, these liquors inside will definitely react and it is impossible for them to still gather here. This kind of liquor is very fast and has good braking power, but relatively speaking, their defense is relatively poor. Even ordinary military thorns can directly penetrate their skulls and kill them. Therefore, if this church is demolished, if these lickers inside do not evade and still gather here, I am afraid that before Wang Feng and his men do anything, the liquor army will suffer heavy losses. Wang Feng and his men now have some understanding of the intelligence of these zombies. It is impossible to regard these zombies as creatures that act completely on instinct like at the beginning of the apocalypse. While killing the lickers in front of him, Wang Feng paid close attention to the zombies in the church. After more than an hour, a stone finally hit the wall outside their room heavily, creating a gap in the wall. However, under Lu Feng's metal ability, the lickers had not had time to enter through the gap, and Lu Feng completely blocked the gap. However, at this time, Wang Feng noticed that the number of lickers in the church had been reduced a lot without his knowledge, especially those lickers that had previously clung to the dome of the church, all of which had disappeared. Wang Feng listened attentively and found that the creaking sound of the tower crane outside the church seemed to be getting more and more frequent, so he quickly reminded everyone to prepare to evacuate with him. Bang! Suddenly, a loud noise was heard, as if something was breaking. Then, a strange roar was heard outside the church. With the roar, the lickers in the church suddenly turned around and swarmed outside the church. Ga, the sound of the tower crane became more and more frequent and louder. Get ready. The arm of the tower crane should be broken. Be careful and defend yourself. Get ready to break out, Wang Feng shouted loudly. Now the lickers in the church have basically all withdrawn from the church, so they no longer have the pressure of defense. However, Wang Feng did not plan to rush out now. He knew without a doubt that the lickers should be waiting for them at the door of the church, waiting for them to get out. Wang Feng led everyone and quickly moved to a room next to the second floor. This room was smaller than the room they were in before, and had a larger window, so Wang Feng and his team did not choose this place just now, but now this is a good breakthrough point. Since Wang Feng did not plan to go out from the door of the church, he naturally had to go out from other places. The window of this room was the exit that Wang Feng chose to break through the church. I'll go out first. Then you guys follow me, Lao Lu, you and Hao Shui will cover us, Wang Feng said. Then he came to the window, swung Tiankai, smashed the window completely, then looked out, and jumped out of the window. Now because the lickers were ready to destroy the church, there was no liquor clinging to the wall outside the church, and there were not many lickers even under the church. Those lickers were mostly gathered on the street next to the church and on the buildings opposite the church. Wang Feng looked out to see if he could find the leader of the lickers, but it might be that the leader of the lickers thought that Wang Feng would break out from the church door, so he stayed there to command, so Wang Feng still did not find any special zombies. The location of this room is still on the second floor. For the awakened, this height has no effect on them at all. Wang Feng just jumped out of the window, and Zhang Xiu and Su Mo followed closely behind him and jumped out, followed by Huo Xing and Li Fei, then Hao Shui, and finally Lu Feng. The 7 people did not come out from the church door, but jumped out from the side window, which surprised the zombies. However, because now these hundreds of thousands of zombies are all gathered around the church, there are basically lickers everywhere. Wang Feng and his team just landed on the street on the side of the church and were attacked by countless lickers. Crackle! Boom! Wang Feng and his companions had not advanced 5 meters in the corpse group when a chaotic sound sounded behind them. The tower crane finally fell towards the church as Wang Feng expected. On the falling crane arm, there were still a large number of lickers clinging. When they confirmed that the crane arm had broken off and was about to hit the dome of the church, these lickers began to leave the crane arm one after another. The dense lickers fell from the sky like raindrops. Although some unlucky ones fell to the ground and died directly, most of the lickers still escaped this disaster. The church hit by the crane arm was instantly covered with smoke and dust, making the sight that was originally shrouded in thick fog and low visibility even more obstructed. Even Wang Feng's eyes seemed to lose the perspective effect of the smoke and dust, but fortunately Wang Feng still remembered the direction of his parking, so he led everyone to rush all the way to the direction where the hurricane was parked. Because of Wang Feng's reminder, except for Wang Feng, almost everyone else is in peak condition. Even Wang Feng, although he has consumed more than half of his physical strength, can use Tiankai's instant recovery. In other words, as long as Wang Feng is willing, he can reach peak condition at any time. When the church collapsed, the scene was a bit chaotic. Because of the collapse of the church and Wang Feng's failure to rush out of the church door, it seemed that the leader of the lickers was a little bit unresponsive for a while, and Wang Feng and his team rushed forward more than 100 meters and came to the intersection on the right side of the church. This position is less than 100 meters away from the hurricane. It seems that it is not difficult to reach the hurricane. As long as they reach the hurricane, their safety can basically be guaranteed temporarily. Moreover, Wang Feng and his team still have a lot of physical strength. Not to mention the distance of less than 100 meters, even if it is 1000 meters, there is basically no problem under their full burst. However, just when Wang Feng and his team thought they could get out of danger, through the fog, Wang Feng found an unexpected trouble. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 379. This trouble is not big, but it is not small either. It seems that because Wang Feng rushed out of the church by himself and then drove Hurricane to move, these lickers knew that Hurricane was also brought by Wang Feng and his team. Therefore, after Wang Feng left, these lickers actually moved a pile of stones to bury Hurricane. Now there is a rockery where Hurricane is parked, which is as high as 3 floors. Needless to say, Hurricane must be in this rockery. However, no matter what, Wang Feng and his team's current task is to rush to the vicinity of that rockery. Although there are many buildings near the church where Wang Feng and his team can hide temporarily, it seems that they have learned the lesson of being killed by Wang Feng and his team in that room before, so now the buildings near the church are already densely packed with lickers. No matter which building Wang Feng and his team choose, it is probably difficult to get in. Although the hurricane is now buried by rocks, those rocks don't seem to be big. In addition, there are several power-type awakeners here. It shouldn't be difficult to move the boulders and dig out the hurricane. Moreover, the lickers around are so dense that these rocks may be used as weapons. Follow me all, Wang Feng shouted, waving Apocalypse at the same time, and cut a bloody path among the lickers who kept rushing towards them. However, at this time, it seems that the leader of the lickers has also reacted and mobilized a large number of lickers to launch a fearless attack on them. At this moment, Wang Feng and his entire assault team were attacked from all sides. At this time, no one could hold back, because once their position was broken, it would inevitably affect the other people in the team. In order not to destroy the formation of the entire team, everyone began to try their best and squander their physical strength. Now, except for Wang Feng, the others still cannot know the exact number of the entire licker army. In fact, even Wang Feng can only know an approximate number. However, because the others can only see the area of 10 meters around themselves, the pressure in their hearts is not that great. If they can see that the area within a few hundred meters around them is full of dense lickers, I am afraid that their psychological pressure will suddenly increase, and they will lose the confidence to break through. Wang Feng dare not rush too fast now, because he is afraid that he will be out of touch with the team. Judging from the current offensive of these lickers, once their team is broken up, I am afraid that except for him, Lu Feng and Hao Shui who can hold on for a while, the others will be torn into pieces by the lickers before they even run out of physical strength. The 7 people gathered together as much as possible to reduce their defense range. Because they are now in an open-air venue, there are lickers constantly rushing towards them even in the air. However, under the full strength burst of everyone, they can still hold on to their own defense circle for the time being and have not been broken by these lickers. However, Wang Feng knew that this seemingly impenetrable defense was at the cost of a lot of physical energy consumption by everyone, especially Lu Feng, who had continuously sent out thousands of metal steel needles to nail all the lickers that rushed over. Such consumption would undoubtedly make Lu Feng's physical strength quickly exhausted, and once they lost Lu Feng, their main combat force, their defense circle would be even more precarious. However, under their combined burst, although they consumed a lot of physical energy, they successfully reached the vicinity of the rockery where the hurricane was located. After arriving at the rockery, Wang Feng immediately changed positions with Hao Shui. Among the crowd, Hao Shui might have consumed the least, because he only had the ability of stone skin to protect his body, and he did not have an instant burst of attack means. Even if he wanted to consume his physical strength, he could not consume it quickly. He was the one with the longest endurance in this team. After Hao Shui and Wang Feng exchanged positions, he dropped the spear that Lu Feng had made for them, then grabbed the boulder in front of him and smashed it towards the back of the team. The power of the boulder was immediately apparent against this small-sized licker. Although the lickers were very flexible, if there was only one licker in front of Hao Shui, the boulder would probably not be able to hit the target. But now the situation is completely different. These lickers are now crowded together around Wang Feng and his team. Even if they want to dodge, there is no room to dodge. The weight of the boulder itself plus Hao Shui's strength instantly smashed the licker in front of Lu Feng into a meat paste and cleared a small open space. However, this empty space was only a flash in the pan, and then it was filled up again by other lickers, and continued to attack. This is where the horror of these lickers lies. Unlike ordinary zombies, when surrounded by lickers, you basically cannot get any breathing opportunities. When you kill the licker in front of you, the lickers behind you will quickly fill the position of the dead licker and continue to attack without stopping. Hao Shui has not stopped since he threw the first stone. He is a power-type awakener. In addition, he was in the team just now, and he didn't even activate the body-protecting stone skin, so he still retained a lot of physical strength. Now he naturally knew that the situation was urgent, and immediately threw out one piece of boulder after another with both hands. Hao Shui did not deliberately look for the landing point of the huge rocks thrown from behind, because the first huge stone just made him understand that many lickers might be killed by these rocks, but if he wanted to rely on this it was basically impossible to block their attacks by any means, so starting from the second boulder, Hao Shui started throwing them randomly. Because now they are surrounded by lickers, and no matter where they are thrown, they will kill a few lickers, and now his main purpose is to dig out the hurricane, and waste time looking for rocks in order to kill a few more lickers. The placement of the block is undoubtedly stupid. Seeing Hao Shui keep throwing the stones in front of him behind him, Wang Feng couldn't help but shouted, "Hao Shui! Get up the rockery!" Hao Shui paused and looked back before he realized what was happening. He quickly jumped onto the rockery and killed all the lickers on the rockery. As Hao Shui climbed up the rockery, others followed closely behind Hao Shui. After they all climbed onto the rockery piled up by the lickers, the battle became easier. Because when they were on the flat ground, many lickers would jump up and attack them from the air. But now that they are on the rockery, the lickers themselves are relatively short and walk on all fours, so there are fewer of them. They set a defensive direction, and as they climbed to the top of the rockery, the defense became easier. Because they only need to kick those stones down with their feet, and during the rolling process of the stones, it will help them knock down the lickers who are coming towards them. If the lickers want to come up again, it will take some time, which is enough time for them to throw more rocks down again to attack the lickers. Later, even Zhang Xiu joined the ranks of throwing stones, and kept throwing stones at the lickers below. Although this also had a disadvantage, Wang Feng could not throw the lickers who were smashed to death. The corpses were put away, and all the dead lickers were eaten by their own kind, but Wang Feng had no way to care about this now. Everyone's physical strength has almost reached its limit. If they don't move these stones away and enter the hurricane, they may suffer casualties. Moreover, although each stone will knock down the lickers who are climbing up the rockery, but not many people actually died under the rocks. One stone could only kill 2 or 3 at most, and some could not even kill 1. Those lickers who are injured but not dead will not be attacked by their own kind. Only the truly dead lickers will be treated as food. This is a more humane rule. Due to everyone's efforts, the roof of the hurricane was quickly exposed. Seeing this scene, other people worked harder and threw the stones faster, without even looking at where the stones would be thrown. He just buried his head and threw the rocks covering the hurricane as hard as he could. Soon, the cover of the hurricane's roof appeared in front of Hao Shui. Without saying a word, Hao Shui kicked away a stone blocking the lid. He didn't care about the severe pain in his instep caused by the collision with the stone. He squatted down, twisted the handle of the top cover, and then used force with a pull. He turned his body sideways to let the entrance out, and shouted, "Go in quickly." Following closely behind Hao Shui was Zhang Xiu. She jumped into the hurricane without any hesitation, followed by Mars, then Su Mo, and then Li Fei. Wang Feng looked at Lu Feng and said, "You guys everyone go in, I'll hold on outside for a while." Lu Feng and Hao Shui looked at each other and without saying much, jumped directly into the hurricane. Just after they entered the hurricane, Wang Feng closed the top cover of the hurricane with one kick, stood on top of the hurricane, and faced lickers coming from all directions. "It looks like there was some mistake in your plan? Not one of the people around that boy died?" They all ran into the hurricane, a room in a building only 30 or 40 meters away from the battlefield where Wang Feng is. Among them, a man in military uniform stood in front of the window, opened the curtain in front of him with his hand, looked at Wang Feng's figure, then put down his hand, closed the curtain in front of him, turned around and said leisurely, "Doomsday Special Forces." Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 380. This man was wearing a camouflage combat uniform. The upper half of his face looked like the Apostle Peter, wearing a beast mask, and his figure was also similar to the Apostle Peter. If Wang Feng was standing in front of him, he might have mistaken him for the Apostle Peter, but however, his voice is different from the hoarse voice of the Apostle Peter. It is a somewhat deep baritone. "Humph. I didn't say I had to kill the people around him. I just don't care if the people around him die," a hoarse voice sounded. If Wang Feng could see this person, he would definitely recognize him. It was the Apostle Peter. Unfortunately, due to the curtains and the fact that his attention was focused on the lickers around him, Wang Feng didn't know that the Apostle Peter was in a room dozens of meters away from him. The Apostle Peter was sitting on the sofa in this room at this time. He didn't seem to care about the battle that was almost close at hand outside the window. He crossed his legs and sat leisurely on the sofa, lying on the back of the sofa. In the middle, the eyes behind the mask are gently closed, as if they are falling asleep. "Are you so relieved?" The man with the same mask standing at the window went to sit on the sofa opposite the Apostle Peter, looked at the Apostle Peter, and asked softly, "Aren't you afraid that those little monsters you created will did this guy tear it up?" "Humph. If he can't even handle these little things, what qualifications does he have to deal with the coming group of guys? It's better to just die here and have peace of mind," Apostle Peter snorted disdainfully. "That's easy to say. If he is really killed by you, Paul will destroy you directly," the man opposite said. "Ha ha. Regardless of whether he succeeds or not, those of us are destined to disappear from this world after those guys arrive, without any trace. This is our fate. Only one of the 12 apostles is destined to be left behind." At this point, the Apostle Peter suddenly turned his head, looked at the masked man opposite and asked, "Matthew, did you think that the last person would be you?" It turns out that the man opposite the Apostle Peter is actually one of the 12 apostles, the Apostle Matthew. When the Apostle Matthew heard the question from the Apostle Peter, a trace of sadness flashed in his eyes. He shook his head and sighed, "Of course it's impossible." After receiving the answer, Apostle Peter showed a smile at the corner of his mouth, and raised his head on the back of the sofa again. The eyes behind the mask flashed with a blurred look, staring at the ceiling, as if he wanted to see through the layers of cement boards. "Like the endless vast universe," he said softly, "except for that guy, the other 11 apostles of ours just appeared in this world to complete his plan." The Apostle Peter's half-hearted words made the Apostle Matthew across the way seem to be thinking about his future and fell into silence. As a result, the whole room began to become deathly silent, and those who occasionally passed by their window the lickers seemed to dare not disturb them, and no one dared to enter this room. Wang Feng didn't know what happened in this room. At this time, he was still fighting in the endless sea of corpses. The lickers came one after another, attacking Wang Feng without any interruption, and Wang Feng, standing just above the top of the hurricane, desperately fending off these lickers. In the hurricane, Lu Feng and others could see the situation on the roof of the car, but they had no way to get out because Wang Feng was standing on top of the roof. Opening the lid rashly might interfere with his movements. Moreover, after the outbreak just now, everyone who entered the hurricane has exhausted their physical strength. Even if they go out, it will not have much effect at all. On the contrary, it will distract Wang Feng from taking care of himself. Seeing Wang Feng fighting alone above the hurricane, everyone in the car fell silent. A deep sense of powerlessness arose in everyone's heart, especially Zhang Xiu. At this moment, she finally understood one thing. Why is it that every time Wang Feng disappears, the base will fall into a state of panic, and every core character will appear to be lost? But when Wang Feng appears again, the entire base will be high-spirited and regain its former glory. With this arrogant attitude, it seems that only Wang Feng is the soul of this Hope Base. Zhang Xiu has always stayed at the Hope Base to help Lu Wanting with some management matters. She does not understand that in the Hope Base, these can be regarded as turning over the clouds and raining rain, and the whole base will tremble if she stomps her feet. Why do the big shots here value Wang Feng so much? Especially men in their 30s and 40s, such as Lu Feng, Tang Haoshan, and Gui Weivuo. In Zhang Xiu's view, each of them is a strong man who can stand alone, and even if he is randomly selected, he can bring hope to the base. Go all the way in this apocalypse. But the real talkers in this base are Wang Feng and Duan Lei, 2 young boys in their early 20s. This situation really makes Zhang Xiu confused. Therefore, she has always had no regard for Wang Feng. Never been polite. Now, looking at the thin figure on the screen, Zhang Xiu understood that it was this young boy who rushed in front to clear the way when the church was about to collapse. After reaching a place where they could take refuge, he retreated to cut off the rear, allowing them to escape. When you are exhausted and unable to fight, you enter a relatively safe place where you can get a chance to breathe. But he himself stayed outside, alone, resisting the countless zombies around him. He could also come in, but now the hurricane was simply buried under stones. Although they had moved the stones above, the hurricane was still can't drive away. If Wang Feng also comes in and no one restrains the lickers, will they bury the hurricane with rocks again? At that time, the hurricane's carriage will become a real tomb, burying them inside forever. Even if Lu Feng's superpower can open the top, they can press the pressure from the inside under the watchful eyes of countless lickers. Move away the mountain of rocks above your head? In fact, Wang Feng on the roof of the car didn't think about these issues at all at that time. He just wanted Lu Feng and others to go in, and he would resist outside for a while to buy them time. However, Wang Feng did not expect that when after he is the only one left outside, the consumption of his physical strength will be so great. Because they only moved away the stones that were pressed on the roof of the hurricane car, Wang Feng's current position is not only not at the commanding heights, but also at the lowest position on the top of the rock mountain. The lickers can see the stones from the side. After jumping up, you can easily launch an attack from above Wang Feng. Since there are angles around him that need to be defended except under his feet, and many lickers are rushing towards him at the same time, Wang Feng has to keep himself spinning and does not dare to face him all the time. A certain direction, but even so, his body was covered with scars from being scratched by lickers. This is the effect of Wang Feng's continuous blast. Otherwise, his speed would not be able to kill all the lickers close to him at that moment. Wang Feng did not want to activate the blast, because even he now that he has reached the level of awakened, plus his body is still fused with the core of life, and Apocalypse is slowly recovering, his physical strength is the fastest among everyone. But even so, Wang Feng's gale cannot last for too long, and once his gale state disappears, under such intensive attacks, it may not take long for him to be torn into pieces by these lickers. "Brother Feng, how long have you been holding on?" Martian asked blankly, looking at the screen blankly. "It's been more than 2 hours since we came in." Zhang Xiu also looked at the screen, sitting motionless in the carriage, and replied softly. These 2 hours, for Wang Feng above, should be more than 2 hours of hell. At this moment, Wang Feng has already lost the original flexibility, his body has become much slower, and the apocalypse in his hand is waving. Also looked a little scattered and weak, the clothes all over his body had already turned into strips of cloth, stuck to the body by the blood flowing out of the body. Wang Feng was in a very embarrassed state at this time. He had no idea how many wounds had been superimposed. If Tiankai had not been continuously healing, he would have died of excessive blood loss long ago. However, although Wang Feng's movements are now scattered, he was fighting almost entirely with his own fighting instinct, but his eyes still remained clear, and there was still an unyielding light shining in them. If you include the previous ones, he should have been fighting continuously for nearly 100 hours now, right? Su Mo looked at the screen and sighed, "If it were me, I would have collapsed a long time ago. This kind of fighting makes me persist for 2 years. 10 hours is enough." "Yes. Our fighting will is simply not enough for us to carry out a high-intensity battle that lasts for such a long time." "How many lickers has he killed?" 100,000. 150,000. "I'm afraid that all of us combined will kill." "He didn't kill as many lickers as he did alone," Li Fei murmured. "That's right. Even I can't persist for such a long time. Have you noticed that his physical strength should have been almost exhausted more than an hour ago, but he is so shaky and persists?" For more than an hour Lu Feng looked at the screen and sighed. "His fighting will is too strong. If we reach this level, we would rather let these zombies tear us apart than continue to hold on, because fighting in this situation should be worse than death. Cruel."